So technically I live with my mom. I spent my nights there and she had custody of me. My mom struggled with addiction and mental health issues, so she wasn't always able to take care of me in the way that she wanted to. So my grandma did a lot of the day-to-day raising of me. So she was the one who made sure I ate, bought my school clothes, helped me with anything I needed, took me to my doctor's appointments, my dentist appointments. So even though I might not have been as appreciative as I should when I was younger, now I realize what a sacrifice that was, and that just makes me feel incredibly loved. The first times that I heard about sex were on the school bus, because we were, in kindergarten or first grade, and there were like 7th and 8th graders on the back of the bus. And I remember that they used to teach us all kinds of things that we weren't supposed to know, like what the middle finger was and what sex was. And I remember at that time, I don't know exactly what they told me, but what I came to believe was that when you had sex, you just took your clothes off and rolled around. And so that's what I did with my Barbie dolls. I just took all their clothes off and had them roll around. Eventually, as I got more curious and I was like asking my mom questions and asking my grandma questions, my mom was mostly, like, her first reaction was, as soon as I asked, we've got to get you on birth control because you're going to get pregnant. And I wasn't having sex at that point. I was just curious. And then my grandma's reaction was, you can't have sex until you're married. And that is it. You only ever get to have sex with one person. Or it's a sin, because that's her religious belief. So I wasn't getting a lot of information. There's so much fear surrounding it. My mom was pretty afraid of sex, and for her it was a really negative thing. She was sexually abused as a child, and then as an adult was raped while she was under the influence. And so both of those things she never really dealt with. Even though she struggled with mental health, she didn't really get treatment for it, because most people just labeled her an addict. They didn't really look at what she was medicating. That caused me to feel a lot of guilt and shame for a long time. All of those different, the fear that was surrounding it, the attitude that if you had sex that you'd given away your precious flower and you were no longer had any worth. All of those things contributed to like a deep sense of guilt and shame. So I do wish that it was talked to me in a much more positive way. My daughter is 5, and I try to be very open and honest with her. And anytime she has questions, I do my best to answer those in a way that is honest and also developmentally appropriate.
You want to hear my super why? Yeah.
One thing, like, I teach her the appropriate names for her body parts. So like, it's a vulva, it's a vagina. And the reason that I did that is because there's so much research that shows that's one of the best ways to prevent against sexual abuse. And also because those are not names that you should be ashamed of. You shouldn't be ashamed of the word vulva. It shouldn't cause us all to run screaming from the room when we hear the word vagina. But even that, I don't know where it came from, but one day she came back and I said something like, about vulva, and she said, that's a potty word. So someone, even though I've, made this conscious decision along with her father to teach her the correct terms for her anatomy, someone has taught her that's a dirty word, that's a dirty thing. We internalize a lot of messages that we're given about sex. So if you aren't talking to them and helping them think critically about those messages and helping them kind of cope with them, they might feel like sex is a bad thing, it's a dirty thing. They might feel like sex is, they might feel like if they've already had sex, they might feel like they're gross or dirty, like they might have a lot of guilt about it. They may not be prepared to prevent the consequences. They might, you might be taking them to doctor to deal with an unplanned pregnancy or a sexually transmitted infection, or just a whole host of other issues. The responsibility is on you as a parent to make sure that your child has the information that they need to be healthy and whole.